Well, this is going to be one video that may cause some controversy between traditionalist Catholics and the Vatican II Novus Ordo Catholics, which, of course, Vatican II is a false sect and its mass, the Novus Ordo, is a false mass. This video is going to be uploaded on all three of my platforms: YouTube, Rumble, and Patreon. So I've been thinking about this um, for the last couple of weeks, I think, I would say, in regards to Antipope Francis's illegitimate claim to the papacy. That's right, I said it. Antipope Francis. He is an antipope. And I believe his pontificate is illegitimate. But he's not the only one within the Vatican II sect whose pontificate is illegitimate. So those like John the 23rd all the way to Francis are anti-popes, and their claims to the papacy, to the chair of St. Peter, are illegitimate. And I already wrote down my reasons why. So we're going to start off with the first, and it's pretty obvious, I would say, in my opinion. The first one, the papacy hasn't had an actual papal coronation since 1963. And not one of these Vatican II anti-popes have worn the Triple Crown papal tiara. So far, the first two anti-popes of the Vatican II sect are John the 23rd and Paul the Sixth. Paul the Sixth would be, well, even though he's not the true pope, but the last man, a heretical man, be the last person within the church itself, which is now the Vatican II sect, which is an end times counter church, to wear the tiara. And John the 23rd and Paul the Sixth were the last two, to be exact, to uphold the dogmas and the teachings of the church and the Bible. But since the start of Vatican II, those teachings and dogmas are being destroyed, and everything within Vatican II has been nothing more but a contradiction to true teachings. All we've seen so far since the ratification and finalization of Vatican II, everything's been a contradiction. So the next thing I would also say here, I know it's going to be complicated to look at history on this one part right here. In accordance with the illegitimate pontificate of John the 23rd, we have to look back to the 1958 conclave after the death of the last true pope, Pope Pius XII. For those who have been who've studied the 1958 conclave and have looked at its past, we know for sure, definitely for sure, that both Freemasons and communists were involved in that conclave, because Cardinal Giuseppe Siri was the right man to lead the church, the right man for the job, even which Pius XII believed he'd be the perfect man for the job to succeed him. But from sources that I have looked at on YouTube, is that Cardinal Siri's election, both in 58 and in 63, well, Siri turned down his elections twice, because I don't know why my phone went off like that. That was weird. Sorry. Well, I'm already 5 minutes into the video, so I apologize for why my phone decided to like go off on its own for some reason. Well, nobody was calling me; it just started to turn on. I don't know why. Then the Siri came on. Okay, I apologize. Let me go back. So Cardinal Siri, there is evidence that he won the elections of 58 and 63 twice, but turned them down because what it was said about him is that his family had was known for owning a well-known fishing company, and that his family had been under threat for some reason. I forget what. That if he accepted his election as the new pope, that things would be bad for him and his family. But as to how the Masons and the communists got involved in that election, that's a complicated um, explanation. Of course, who knows what occurred behind closed doors on that day. Cardinal Angelo Roncalli, who became John the 23rd, he was like the very least likely to be elected, and apparently he ended up being chosen and took the name John the 23rd, which of course would make him the first anti-pope in centuries to be actually be labeled as an anti-pope. Actually, well, he's not the only person that has taken up that name because there was another anti-pope during the Great Western Schism who also went by the name, and he too took the name John the 23rd. So there's been two John the 23rds. And then, of course, the first John the 23rd summoned an illegitimate council, which would be the Council of Constance, because that council, of course, which did resolve the Great Western Schism, in which you had three popes claiming to be the real pope, who had claims to the chair of Peter in Rome, even though he had the true pope at the time, Gregory the 12th, who would be like the last pope in history to resign. And then you got two other claimants that would be anti-pope Benedict the 13th in Avignon, and then the first anti-pope John the 23rd in Pisa. From what I've seen from other videos by Vatican Catholic, which is by taking that name that Roncalli took, John the 23rd would be like a um, new line of anti-popes. So because of John the 23rd's illegitimate pontificate, from him all the way to Francis, their pontificates are illegitimate because of what happened in 1958, knowing that Masons and communists got involved. Now, the next one, I know that a so-called Catholics of Vatican II, who are like huge adoring fans of John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and Francis. Well, here's the thing. I do not believe in I do not recognize the canonizations of John the 23rd, Paul VI, John Paul II, and the beatification of John Paul I because of their pontificates. I know that Benedict XVI died a couple of years ago. I know he's not a saint. I hope not. That's why I mentioned all the Vatican II anti-popes from John the 23rd to Francis. I do not recognize even the canonizations, the beatifications of these anti-popes. I do not recognize. So I do not recognize John the 23rd as a saint. I do not recognize Paul VI as a saint. I do not recognize John Paul II as a saint. I do not recognize the beatification of John Paul I as a blessed. Benedict XVI, I hope he does not become a saint. Because first of all, there has to be grounds of miracles, and so far as I've been paying attention, there has been so far no case of him of creating miracles. Now, as for John Paul II, there have been reports that he did commit miracles and yet got his canonization, but still, I do not recognize his canonization as a saint because of his pontificate. Now, John the 23rd, there's only been one recorded case of a miracle, and yet he still got canonized, in which I don't believe he should not have been canonized on the grounds of only one miracle. But even his beatification as a blessed still would be illegitimate, even if there was a miracle committed. Paul VI, I do not know, to be honest with you. I didn't pay too much attention to that one. But because of their pontificates, I do not recognize their canonizations and beatifications. And I know some of you are going to say, you don't really, you don't believe in their canonizations just because you're a traditionalist, even though there's ground evidence of miracles for them. Well, here's one note I did put down. Before being elected to the papacy in 1958, prior to that, Angelo Roncalli, who became John the 23rd, he did not recognize Saint Pius X's canonization as a saint on the grounds that Pius X attacked modernists and the Freemasons, and he knew how evil they were. But Roncalli supported them, and apparently, well, not just the Masons that Roncalli supported. If I remember correctly, he supported. If I remember doing, I know it's been a while since I looked at this research regarding John the 23rd and the 1958 conclave, but it seems to me that Roncalli was in favor and an admirer of Joseph Stalin and what he was known for, which we all know what that is. And Pius XII did not like what he believed in. If I remember correctly, Pius XII made him the Archbishop of Venice and kept him away from Rome as possible. Hopefully, he never be elected. So, yeah, I do not recognize their canonizations, but John the 23rd did not recognize the canonization of St. Pius X, only because he attacked the Masons and the Martinists. Now, so after seeing some reports from traditional Catholic websites on social media, if you're familiar with this one, it's called Novus Ordo Watch. It's a traditional Catholic website. It's a Catholic news website. And I follow them both on Facebook and Twitter. And within the last few days or so, Francis has come out not only attacking traditionalists, but also conservative Catholics. I know there are some conservative Catholics that that do follow traditional teachings, even though some do, but they're mostly in favor of Vatican II. But still, there are true conservative Catholics that follow the true tradition of the Church and that they don't recognize Vatican II. But here comes Francis coming out, attacking them, and he's called both traditionalist Catholics, such as the Sedevacantists, and conservative Catholics that still follow true traditional teaching, as rigid. Because He expects all of us to bow down and submit to everything that is Vatican II. He expects us to bow down and submit to all of Vatican II. That's what that is. He expects everything to be. He expects every person within the church to follow every example of Vatican II. Vatican II, the council, its so-called theology of today, it's not the real teachings, not the real theology. It's all contradiction, a lot of heresy in it, and a lot of apostasy. And I know there's a lot of that going back decades, going back to 1962 when John the 23rd started the council. Excuse me, I need some water. But you know what? It's Francis that is, I would say, rigid because he's not all up there. Now, here's another. Now, the next thing I'm going to discuss about. Now, this was talked about Brother Peter Diamond of VaticanCatholic.com, and of course, they got their channel on YouTube, and I'll tag the link so you can check out their videos, and they're pretty good. I would say so myself, and I've been a huge fan of them within the past decade, or perhaps a little longer, but still. Now, for what Francis has already been known already, being a heretic, which Peter Diamond has brought up already, because he's already quoted two popes and one cardinal that two popes and one cardinal in which that cardinal is the same, which I'll mention in a second. So the first two popes he brings that Brother Peter Diamond brings up and quotes all the time regarding Francis and what he teaches and preaches and all that. Popes Saint Celestine the First and Paul the Fourth, and that is, if a Roman pontiff teaches and preaches heresy, they should no longer hold office. Now, the other saint, which I'm going to bring up, that is a cardinal right here, Saint Robert Bellarmine, who is the hammer of heretics. Now, he has said this in his works, in which Peter Diamond did bring up, and that is that it is licit to resist him if he attacks the soul of the faithful, disturbs the civil order, and above all tries to destroy the church. So, because of what Francis has said and done, which I just quoted this one part from Saint Robert Bellarmine, that if he destroys the body and soul of the faithful, the church, and does try to destroy the church, that it's okay for us to resist him if the Roman Pontiff is gonna act and be like that. Francis has proven so, and Francis, the stuff he says, he's already admitted that if he said anything that was heretical, he wouldn't care. He's even said that no, you should not be converting people to the Catholic faith, and then he also said that it's a sin to try to get people to convert to the Catholic faith. I know this is stuff that he's already admitted to by saying no, you don't need to convince someone to be Catholic, because he's saying no matter what religion you believe in, oh, you're still going to go to heaven. No, you have to convert to Christianity. You have to convert to Roman Catholicism. And since Francis has proven already to be what he is, so there's enough reason for a lot of these traditionalists to resist him. There should be no reason to put up what Francis has said and done because, like I said, I have watched a lot of the videos from the Diamond Brothers, including, yeah, I've watched a lot. Yeah, the Diamond Brothers, I've been watching a lot of their videos on Vatican Catholic on YouTube. Great material, and they always cover good ground in regards to what the Vatican II sect does and what Francis does. And there might be videos that I might be doing pretty soon to some of the things that the Diamond Brothers have brought up, which I'm going to be discussing too, as well, because Francis is becoming under fire for some of this stuff he has said, done, decreed. It's just outrageous, and it's, I would say, also embarrassing for the church, especially for the papacy. So I'm gonna quote this again from Popes Saint Celestine I and Paul IV. If the Roman Pontiff is known to be heretical and he teaches and preaches any heresy and apostasy, they cannot hold office. Say Robert Bellarmine, that is that it's illicit to that it is licit to resist him. If he attacks the souls of the faithful, disturbs the civil order, and tries to destroy the church, which we're seeing Francis do. What and we've seen within the last couple of years his beef with the traditional Latin Mass. Not only have we seen him trying to limit it, he's trying to destroy it. Like, you can't expect us to go to the Novus Ordo masses in all foreign languages, especially in English, and which believe me, their masses are a joke. And how they do the mass, including the Eucharist, that's what they do in those churches, is wrong. And what I mean by wrong, it's not the right way. And from other videos I've seen from the Diamond Brothers videos on Vatican Catholic and how these Novus Ordo masses are performed, it's just outrageous. And I've seen their videos and so, I've seen one of their videos on how the Vatican II sect performs mass in most weird ways. One of them I remember seeing, you had this mass and you had people up on the altar doing the chicken dance. If anybody's familiar with that, there was one mass like some months ago where you had people on the no, I didn't say, I don't remember right now if I said altar, but up front dancing to the chicken dance. But I've seen other videos in which the Diamond Brothers had talked about how people perform mass in a different way. I'm gonna check their channel, but yeah, I'm gonna tag their channel in the description so you can check it out. It's one of their older videos. Um, like I said, this video is going to be uploaded to not just YouTube but to other platforms such as Rumble and Patreon. So if you want to look for the Vatican Catholic channel, it's only going to be found on YouTube, which I'll put in the description. It's not going to be on Rumble or Patreon. But still, it's an embarrassment what we're seeing within this end times counter church, in which Vatican Catholic.com and the Diamond Brothers have talked about for a long time. Now, we're already familiar with one of the Vatican II archbishops. That would be Carlo Vigano, which we're already familiar with. Now, he was just recently charged and condemned by Francis for being in schism, which is ridiculous, I would say. I'm pretty sure a lot of us that are familiar with the act with Vigano. So far, he's like the only person that has spoken up against Francis. He's like the only one that believes in the traditional teachings of the church, which he believes it upholds. And I'm pretty sure he sticks by the traditional Latin Mass. But he's a Vatican II Archbishop, so um, well, I would have to say if he's serious what he says, then he really needs to convert directly to the true and traditional Catholic faith, not of all Vatican II. So he was, like I said, charged, tried, condemned, and excommunicated by Francis for being in schism. And which, of course, in another article that was just put out by Novus Ordo Watch, in which Vigano finally says that Francis is an anti-pope, and like I said, he's already called out Francis for being an illegitimate pope and doesn't believe he is the rightful pope, in which I agree with him. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us who are traditionalists that follow the true traditional teachings of the church would stand by Vigano's words, and then of course a lot of us would believe that Francis is not the true pope. So not only has he come out calling Francis an anti-pope, but at the same time he calls Francis an anti-pope, he also says that Benedict XVI's resignation in 2013 was invalid. Well, to be honest with you, I don't know to agree with that, to what he said or not about Benedict's resignation. I mean, it was Benedict's call in the beginning that he should resign. Yeah. So this whole idea about schism, Vigano being in schism, is just ridiculous. And since Francis's pontificate is illegitimate, therefore condemning, um, convicting, condemning, and excommunicating Vigano is invalid because Francis is not the true pope. His pontificate is illegitimate and invalid. So therefore, Vigano can't really be is not really being condemned to hell. No, but Vigano does have time to really convert to the real Catholic faith here. Vatican II is not part of the Catholic Church. But as for Benedict XVI's resignation, which Vigano has talked about, I don't know really, to be honest with you, to agree with him on Benedict's resignation or not. But you know what? You know who's really in schism here? It's Francis. And I know that Peter Diamond on Vatican Catholic has said that Benedict is said to be worse than Francis, even though Benedict has allowed the traditional Latin Mass to be performed. Honestly, I don't know whether to agree with that or not. If they're saying that Benedict XVI is worse than Francis, after what we've seen, what Francis has done, then I do agree that Benedict is worse than Francis. But Francis is taking things to a whole new level, and it's just getting bad by the minute, no matter what. So Francis is the one who's in schism, and I think all the Vatican II popes from John the 23rd to Francis are all schismatic. But I'll tell you what, excuse me, even though I'm not a member of the church, in other words, I'm not a priest, I'm not a cleric or anything like that. But if I had the one and only lifetime only to become the true pope, just a thought, and to post Francis, I would put Francis on trial and find him guilty of schism and declare his so-called pontificate illegitimate, and then declare his predecessors all the way back to John the 23rd as illegitimate, finding Vatican II illegitimate and its teachings illegitimate. What happened during the 1958 conclave to be illegitimate? So therefore, well, I'm just saying, as an example, I would see myself as the rightful successor, not just to St. Peter, but to Pius XII. Well, even though Francis is considered the 266th Pope, but if we can get rid of him, all we have to do is go all the way back and make that real person the 261st Pope. But you know what? We were warned a long time ago from past apparitions, from the whole of the Blessed Virgin herself, Our Lady of Good Success, Our Lady of La Salette, and then of course um, what is it? The Revelations and the Revelations and the Revelations and the stigmata of the Blessed Catherine N. Emmerich, if we're all familiar with. If you're not familiar with Catherine N. Emmerich, you might want to look her up because she even foretold in her Revelations, which is foretelling the future. She did see she did see the vision of two popes being together. That would be both Benedict the 16th and Francis. So that's turned out to be true. We were warned about Vatican II from the last two apparitions, the Blessed Mother, Our Ladies of Good Success, and La Salette, and we just ignored it. We just totally forgot about it. Maybe forgotten or maybe ignored it, who knows, but we were warned that this would happen. Emmerich's revelations proved otherwise as well. So yeah, if I were the real Pope, even though I'm not a priest or any cleric, but had a once in a lifetime opportunity, just a thought. By example, Francis would be deposed. Francis would be on trial. He would be convicted for being in schism. I would also condemn his predecessors from Benedict the 16th all the way back to John the 23rd for being in schism. Now I don't know if this could happen or not. If the canonizations of John the 23rd, Paul the 6th, John Paul the 2nd, and the beatifications of John Paul the 1st can be reversed. I don't know if that can be allowed or not, but in my mind, I think that should be reversed. So now we're almost done here. Okay, last part. For those who follow the Vatican II teachings in the Vatican II Church, the so-called Vatican II Catholic Church, which is not the true Catholic Church, but an end times counter church, in which the Diamond Brothers have talked about on Vatican Catholic. Those who follow and attend the Novus Ordo Mass, which is Mass being performed in an unusual way, spoken in different languages and not in Latin. And that is if you believe Francis is the true pontiff, for those that follow the Vatican II teachings and believe in Francis, why don't you get the cardinals of Vatican II to draft and sign a document legitimizing Francis's pontificate? But since these cardinals are all Vatican II, even if they did, in my own opinion, I'm just saying, it would still be illegitimate. Therefore, Francis would still be considered as illegitimate. So these are just my thoughts, what I'm saying. So these are my thoughts and grounds and what I believe about Francis's pontificate. Now, like I said at the beginning, in regards to the coronation, the papal tiara, and not taking the oath, then therefore your pontificates are illegitimate, because John the 23rd and Paul the 6th, they were the last two. Well, actually, I would not say the last two, because their pontificates were not real. That they were the first two and the last two within the papacy to hold a coronation, to wear the tiara, and to uphold and then take the official oath of upholding the church's teachings. But from John Paul I all the way to Francis, who have ditched the coronation and the tiara and not taken the oath of upholding the church's teachings, their pontificates are illegitimate. Now, speaking of the papal tiara, I don't want to forget. When Paul VI donated his tiara and put it up for auction, that was done for the benefit of the poor, in which his tiara is on display in the museum at the Basilica of the Immaculate in Washington, D.C. And since then, after Paul VI's death, and then up to John Paul I, the coronation being replaced by an inaugural mass, their, as I've said, their pontificates are illegitimate and never took the oath. Therefore, everything is invalid, null, and void. And the thing about the tiara, what I'm trying to say is that surrendering, not only did Paul VI donate his tiara and put it up for auction, but at the same time, he was surrendering the full authority of the papacy. The triple crowns on every tiara that every pope has worn represents the absolute authority of the pope: spiritual, temporal, and ecclesiastical. Since then, no one's worn one. Now, Francis, a few years ago, was given a tiara by nuns, in which there are some pictures, not happy with it. Like, he didn't want to look. He didn't want it. He didn't want to look at it, because, well, without a doubt, he doesn't like anything that's traditional one bit. John Paul II, when he was given a tiara and it was donated to him by the faithful of Hungary, he actually said that this isn't the time to return back to a ceremony and an object that gives a bad representation of the popes, which is I find ridiculous. That's not true. That's always been the tradition of the church for centuries, because the use of the coronation and the tiara goes all the way back to the time of Pope St. Nicholas I, aka Pope St. Nicholas the Great, who reigned in the 8th or 9th centuries. I, honest with you, I don't remember how long I don't know when exactly when Nicholas the First ruled, but it goes back that far back. So yeah, um, Francis is not the true pope. Now, I am a traditionalist Catholic myself. I'm a sedevacantist Catholic. Sedevacantist means seat vacant. The seat is vacant, even though John the 23rd, Paul the Sixth, John Paul I, II, Benedict the 16th, and Francis, even though they're occupying the Vatican, but their pontificates illegitimate. Therefore, no one is actually sitting on the chair of St. Peter. No one is. And as I have said, I'm a sedevacantist Catholic. I do not recognize Vatican II. I do not recognize the teachings in the current theology, the Mass of Vatican II. I do not believe in them. I do not believe in the pontificates of John the 23rd, the Francis. I only believe in the rightful true popes from St. Peter all the way to Pope Pius XII. Now, like I said, I am a traditionalist. I'm a traditional sedevacantist Roman Catholic. I follow the one and only true traditional teachings of the Church, the Roman Catholic Church. But everything about Vatican II is illegitimate, including these anti-popes. Now, I know there are a lot of traditional Catholic groups out there like the SSPX, and a couple of others out there. I am not associated with them. I'm not part of them. I'm just a sedevacantist that goes to the Latin Mass. That is all. I know I took a long time discussing this, even though my phone, for no reason, like went off. I'm not saying I got a call, but just acted up through the Siri. But that's it. That's all I have to say about in this video. These were my thoughts. This is what I believed because it didn't take me that long to come up with it because, as I have said, from John Paul I to Francis, they never held the coronation. They never wore the tiara. They never held the actual oath, even though John the 23rd and Paul the Sixth, even though they had their coronations, wore the tiara and upheld and took the official oath. But the pontificates are illegitimate. And with the start and ratification of Vatican II, they broke that oath. Every one of these Vatican II anti-popes. John the 23rd and Paul VI, they broke their oaths with the start of Vatican II and its ratification, so they didn't uphold anything. From John Paul I all the way to Francis, they never had the coronation, never wore the tiara, never took the official oath. Therefore, with all of these Vatican II anti-popes, they're all legitimate. The canonizations and beatifications of some of these frauds are also illegitimate. I know some people are going to call me crazy or what, but this is what I've thought of, or what my opinions are, and what I believe, and what I just said right now in regards to Francis' illegitimacy to the papacy, and then going all the way back with what happened in 1958. That's what I believe in, and I'm pretty sure there are traditionalists that will agree with me. So again, this will be uploaded on all three platforms: YouTube, Rumble, and Patreon. Now, for those that are fans of the Diamond Brothers and the Vatican Catholic YouTube channel, that'll be tagged in the description on YouTube. But even though this will be uploaded onto the other two platforms, I know they don't have an account on there, so it won't be tagged on Rumble and Patreon. So Vatican Catholic will be tagged on YouTube only. So tell me what you think. I don't care if you call me crazy on what I just said. I don't care. even if I cause some sort of insane stirring up or whatever or controversy. I don't care. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell for future updates. Well then, my faithful traditional Catholics, I hope you learned something, hopefully. And as for you Vatican II so-called Catholics of the Novus Ordo Mass, you tell me what you think. Have a blessed day and take care now. Bye.